Welcome to the auditorium. We are looking at a car that belongs to me personally. It's a 1961 Chevrolet Corvair Rampside, or Corvair 95 as they called it. I got a Corvair expert here with me today. This is Barry Sparks. Everything on this car has been redone. The only thing we didn't touch was the steering box, and the steering box works great. When I bought it, it had been sitting for 20 years, I think. There's no rust on this car. Very, very little rust on this car. There was a big, giant, quarter-inch thick metal plate welded on the front end, and they were using it in a junkyard to push cars around in the junkyard. It had an engine in it that was beyond garbage, and figured out I could not rebuild that engine. It would be better just to find another engine. I drove to Arizona. I bought an engine over there. I drove it back in my car, in my convertible. I built a platform on the seat, carried an engine all the way back to California. A friend helped me install it. It was not a rebuilt engine, and Barry helped me with this engine.
You brought me the car. You said you had it rebuilt from the rebuilder. It's kind of weird. All the compression was like 100. Which is a worn out engine. Those are the numbers you get from a worn out engine. Except the odd thing was they were all 100 plus or minus 3. Usually when an engine wears from 140, rebuilt 140 to down to, or thereabouts, down to 100, you're gonna get a 90, you're gonna get a 110, because the different cylinders wear different ways and different heat and things that happen in an engine. Yours were all 100. As if the engine had been rebuilt, 100 compression would normally run. Except it didn't run. It normally start, it'd run, it'd be okay at 100, you lose some power. So ultimately, I think within a day or two, I said, Berlin, I need to tear this engine apart to some extent to see what's going on. When I tore it apart, what I found was it had an early model crankshaft, late model new forged pistons. What that amounts to is you couldn't get the compression ratio that you're trying to get. So we had to put the correct pistons in there, new rings, cylinders were great. They'd been honed and everything, and then it ran. It started and it's been running ever since.
All right, Barry, so you fixed the engine. Car runs great. I get a lot of thumbs up, even in this condition. Let me tell you about what I like about this car, the ramp. If this thing did not have a ramp, there's no way in the world I would have been interested in this car. I mean, you know, it's sort of fuddy-dud styling, but this ramp is so cool. I mean, I already used it once to move a refrigerator.
Yeah, that's what guys use it for.
One person could put a refrigerator on here and roll it up there.
They would take the big rolls of wire up this, and they could set it right here.
It'll handle 4,800 pounds. That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
One of the coolest things besides the ramp is how wide these doors open.
Well, these were made to be work trucks, so everything you see, including the width of the door opening, the ramp, this rubber right here that's made to go on the ground like that, is to work. You know, these were made to compete with the Econoline.
Announcing a new shape, a new design, with a new name, Ford Econoline.
And there are commercials from the 60s when they were comparing the two. There's a hilarious commercial where they're pulling these 4 grown men across the ice.
Ice, slick, smooth, and slippery. One man holds back the Econoline 85 horsepower truck with ease. A push gets it rolling. Let's try 5 men against the 80 horsepower Corvair 95. Can they hold it back? Nope. Too strong for them. Even on a solid lake of ice, Corvair 95's greater traction gets this truck going.
The engine and the Econoline would be right here. You're basically sitting on the motor. There's no way in the world I would want to be in this cab with the motor right there under some sort of cover.
Part of that commercial, it's really a funny commercial, is I think at 45 miles per hour, they slam the brakes on and they come to a dead stop. And the Econoline unloaded. Actually, the back tires lift off the ground, you know, and it's skidding and they're playing this cartoon music.
Here comes the Econoline pickup. Speed approximately 45 miles an hour. Wow, let's watch that again.
And then they show the same thing on this, and it stops really even.
Now, the Corvair 95 pickup with driver and passenger. Same speed. A safe, sure stop that could save a life.
If you don't know what you're doing, you could lose control of the car very easily.
Well, one of the things that does, it makes the front very bumpy.
The Corvair 95's ideal weight balance keeps the truck going with independent suspension at all four wheels. It literally walks over obstacles.
This is a work truck. It was made to have weight in here. So if you're not loaded, that front will be you want to put your seatbelt on, let's put it that way. Or
What do you mean? Seatbelts?
break your
This
neck.
is 1961. Seatbelts were not
If it had
required in this
seatbelts-
country till
if it had seatbelts, you won't wear
66
them.
or 67. I'll put them in, but it doesn't have them. All right, let's go see if we can get a truck to blow us around on the road.
All right. There's just a lot going on for anyone driving these vehicles, which is part of the visceral experience of an old car, right?
Yeah,
And
they're
I
fun.
would say the Rampside pickup is ×2 of any old car that you drive. You hear everything, you feel everything, and there's an element of danger in it. That little thin sheet metal by my toes is what separates you from whatever you hit in front of you. Parents will say, is it safe? And the only answer I can honestly give them is, it's safer than a motorcycle.
I just think there's something about these vintage cars that just puts a smile on your face.
Yeah,
They're
that's
more
right.
fun.
Because if you think about Corvairs, there were 1.8 million of all the different Corvairs made. And they were inexpensive cars. They were economy cars to start. Then they got a little sportier. They were so inexpensive, they got turned over many times. There were many kids' first cars. They were a working man's car. And so now you can't go to a gas station without someone saying,
Oh,
that
no.
was my first car, or I had a Corvair, or my aunt had a Corvair, my dad had a Corvair. Tens of millions of people drove these Corvairs.
Right.
Contrast that with a Porsche 356. Beautiful cars, everyone admires them, but how many millions of people really have memories, childhood memories of Porsche 356s? They might have seen them on the road, but it doesn't evoke emotions like Corvairs do. You weren't driving down a dirt road with your grandpa on a Porsche 356 unless you were James Dean. Unless your grandpa was James Dean. See that? You see that? If we had a horn, we would honk.